Hello, so My Singing Monsters is a hard game. You know, if you're bad at idle games. MSM overall is easy, if you know how to read. Anyone who left the game early either doesn't like music, or didn't read the tutorial and thought you needed to buy every monster with diamonds. Just find an old MSM playthrough that's 1 or 2 episodes long, and you will hear them say something along the lines of, "Wow, that's a lot of diamonds, I'm not spending that much." Now, despite how easy MSM is, it definitely has some very tricky things to do in it, so I compiled a list of the 10 hardest things to do in My Singing Monsters. If you've done all 10 of these, I give you permission to call yourself a My Singing Monsters master. Some rules to start off. I will be excluding monster collections, otherwise this list will be filled with completing monster collections. I'm also excluding completing songs for a similar reason, but also because it will overlap with other items on the list. I'm also excluding reaching certain levels since they don't mean much after level 30, and are pretty hard to judge difficulty-wise due to the new seasonal snacks giving tons of experience if you're fine with the rip-off coin cost. And lastly, I won't include anything too niche or too up to chance, like getting an epic monster with a particular nickname, or breeding 2 natural island ethereals in a row. Finally, I will be looking at this from the perspective of someone who started their game in September and has made 1 in-game purchase, but not someone who makes many in-game purchases. Simply, someone with access to the maximum mine on Plant and Mirror Plant Island, along with 2 breeding and 2 incubation structures on each island, but doesn't have access to excess amounts of diamonds. Also, someone with a large enough friends list who will reliably light torches, but not reliably enough that they will always have 10 wishing torches lit on every island. Now with that out of the way, let's start with a relatively easy one, getting every seasonal monster. Ignore the B-roll, I'm only using it because I love Shanty. Getting all seasonals, I'm referring to their appearances on their respective seasonal island, and not Shanty, since that would break my rule of completing songs. Getting a seasonal monster on its own isn't hard. Due to the new auxiliary seasonal events, you rarely go more than a week without a seasonal being available. But since there's 15 seasonals, and most are only available on 1 island outside of Shanty, it's easy to see where the difficulty arises. Probably one of the hardest classes to complete, unless it's anniversary month, it takes at the very minimum 6 months, and that's assuming you pay attention to out-of-season promotions, and get every seasonal at each event. You could accidentally take a weekend off during an out-of-season promotion and have to wait months before it's available again. Not only that, but you also need to own the island the event takes place on, and have the required monsters needed for breeding. Overall, if you're a long-time player, this shouldn't be a problem, but since we're looking at this from the perspective of a new player, just having the island when the event takes place is hard enough on its own. Next, in 9th, we have getting an epic Woblin. So you may be wondering how this made it onto the list. I actually pondered not including it, but considering you not only have to get the epics needed for the epic Woblin, you also have to wake up the regular version and evolve it into its rare form. And it's not like the rares and epics needed are readily available. If you didn't get them when the initial sales occurred for the rare and epic Woblin's releases, it's going to be a while for the needed rares and epics to be available. Especially considering how uncommon epic fire monsters are, not to mention most triple and quad fire epics are only available to be bred on 1 island. It's easy to understand how this made the top 10. Moving from just a couple fire epics to 8, in 8th place we have powering up an epic Wubbox on a fire island. The first of several Wubbox related entries, regardless on if it's epic Wubbox on Fire Haven or Fire Oasis, both are equally difficult. Despite requiring 8 fire epics, which are fairly uncommon and have pretty low breeding chances, you may wonder why it isn't higher. And that's because of diamonds. It only costs a very reasonable 75 diamonds per missing monster, and due to epic naturals being more commonly available and easier to breed, taking up nearly half the epic Wubbox's inventory, you only need a few epic fire monsters for the diamond cost to be affordable. Which is why it's only 8th. Going from an epic Wubbox to a rare Wubbox, in 7th place we have powering up a rare Wubbox on Woblin Island. Now, as hard as getting a rare Woblin is, it wasn't hard enough to make this list. However, getting 10 rare Woblins is a different story. Rare Wubbox on Woblin Island is the only case where not all monsters are required to power up a Wubbox, and for good reason. Getting all 19 rare Woblins is an achievement on its own, and you don't want all that work to go down the drain. Despite the fact you can pick and choose which rares you box, you're still going to need to box several difficult rare Woblins, which is why it made the list, but isn't very high on it. Now, if you thought the time requirement for getting all the seasonals was bad, imagine having to log in 160 days before you can even start. Because in 6th place, we have completing a Titan Soul. The requirements for getting all 4 Titan Soul sounds is easy enough, you don't even need all 4 rares, you just need to have the coin production, but completing it to open the Titan's eyes is what makes it difficult. 4 commons and 4 rares are easy enough, but 4 epics is where it gets hard. Since there's only 3 naturals on each magical island, that means you need at least 1 fire epic or the epic seasonal, since the epic magicals don't exist yet. Plus, I'm sure they're going to be harder to get than epic fire monsters. But by far, what makes completing a Titan Soul 6th on this list is the fact you need to have completed all 5 Colossal Conendra, meaning a total of 160 days, and any day you miss increases the time. Or you can spend diamonds to negate it. In that 160 days, there's still the possibility of getting the required rares and epics, which is what kept it out of the top 5. But let's face it, most players won't even have the Fire Islands, let alone the Magical Islands, by day 160. Starting off the top 5, in 5th place is getting Mimbaith. Of all ethereals, Mimbaith is by far the hardest. Not only do you need a fully enhanced synthesizer, costing a total of 150,000 shards, but it also requires a quad ethereal, which is no walk in the park. It also needs 16 correctly attuned memes just to have 1 attempt. It's not like getting an epic where you can have a few attempts per day. It could take days just to have 1 attempt. And Mimbaith has a very low chance of synthesizing, potentially taking months to get. The main difficulty lies in the shard costs. Not only is there the 150,000 shards needed to upgrade the synthesizer, but also the thousands of shards needed to attune the required memes. Getting Mimbaith on its own is hard enough, but actually getting to the point where you can even attempt it brought it to 5th. We're sticking with the ethereal theme for 4th, and it's something else that requires an ethereal quad, getting a Primordial. Currently, the only Primordial you can get is Loeb, but soon there will be others like Bogle, Fandle, and Tunafor. I think the easiest way to show how hard getting a Primordial is just telling the steps needed for it. First, you need an Ethereal Islet. As of now, the only one is Plasma Islet, costing 100,000 shards. But the easier and more efficient way is teleporting the respective quad over, but getting one still requires thousands of shards and potentially weeks of attempts if you aren't prepared. You then need all 12 resident ethereals, which is less difficult and more time consuming, with each attempt taking longer than a day, but granting 2 monsters, before finally having the chance to get the Primordial. And let me tell you, the chance of getting the Primordial could be less than 1% for how many times I've tried. I honestly thought I was doing something wrong because I only got my Loeb not too long after Life Formula began. Now, we've had tasks that were time-consuming, we've had tasks that were luck-based, and we've had tasks that required lots of currency. Well, in 3rd combines all of that. You may think the Colosseum is just an easy side mission. Well, think again. There are 50 tasks, and being able to make it through will require all 30 naturals, the 15 original ethereals, and the 5 core seasonals. The first few challenges are a walk in the park, but as you progress, they start requiring higher level monsters, eventually not even being able to be completed without max level monsters, which takes millions of coins and days to level them up. But by far the hardest are the last 5 challenges, where you basically have to rely on luck to complete them. But at least by the end of your suffering, you get 5 gorgeous trophies you can show off. Taking silver, the second hardest thing to do in My Singing Monsters is getting an epic Wubbox on Ethereal Island. Now, I was contemplating putting getting an epic double element Ethereal on this list, just due to how unbelievably low the breeding chances are, but it is possible to get pretty lucky, as I've once gotten 2 double element epic Ethereals in a row. Now, no average player can diamond their way out of this one, with each epic costing an unbelievable 1800 diamonds, up to an unholy total of 27,000 diamonds for an empty inventory. This is currently the only thing on this list I have yet to do. Despite the impossibility of this, there is a saving grace, and it's something I've yet to bring up, and that's wildcards. It's honestly easier to get 8 wildcards than it is to get a double element epic ethereal, so even when epic ethereals aren't available, you can still work towards filling it. I actually think it's easier to get 80 wildcards than it is to get the 10 epic double element ethereals needed. But as hard as it is, there's a task that's even harder. Before I reveal the number 1 hardest thing to do in My Singing Monsters, here are some honorable mentions. Ascending a Celestial, powering up Wubbox on Woblin Island, getting a rare Dream Mythical, getting a rare Woblin, getting an epic Wubbox on a natural island, getting a double element epic ethereal, achieving the old coin limit of 1,999,999,999 coins, and watching one of my videos till the end. If you got that one, let me know. In first place, I give the fitting gold medal of difficulty to getting a stage 5 epic Wubbox on Gold Island. Getting an epic is hard enough on its own, and getting an epic Wubbox on a natural island is almost hard enough to make the list. But also getting all 30 natural epic monsters on Gold Island, and be willing to part with them, is even harder. Epics are not easy to come by, and the first few will be simple enough, but once you're trying to get those last epics, the difficulty starts setting in. The price to power it up using diamonds isn't even in question due to each epic costing a whopping 500 diamonds. Only the experienced and long-time players will be able to accomplish this feat. Now, I'm adding an honorary Grandmaster accomplishment that's not officially part of this list since it breaks a rule, but I'm mentioning as a final challenge, if you currently have all 116 different monsters on Gold Island, I grant you the unofficial title of a My Singing Monsters Grandmaster. Good luck. Obviously, this list will change. Things like getting a fully powered polarity amplifier will eventually be possible, and knock easier things off the list. Things could also get easier if they add new ways to increase breeding probabilities, but as it stands, these are the 10 hardest things to do in My Singing Monsters.